We're going to start the rendering part. After we've done all the modeling and all the texturing and all the animating and all the camera work and lighting, we get to this last part, which is actually the most important part, the only part that if you don't do this part, none of the other parts matter. This is the rendering part. This is when we get the program to produce the images we need to make the animation we want to see, which we'll look at YouTube when you put them up there. So what I want to show you today is how we set ourselves up for rendering, how we test a few things about it, and then how we start the machine going and then probably walk away from it and don't worry about it for a while. Okay? I have this scene set up pretty much the way I want to. I've done a lot of previews of it. I'm going to head back over to Animate so we can see. Last week I talked a little bit about how you can do a quick preview of this window, though it might take 10 or 20 minutes to do it. And I'm actually going to turn off RayGL so that we can see it like this. We'll play it from the beginning. And even this will just give us a ballpark of what we're going to see. Everything we're working with in 3D, we're working with in a preview mode. Everything. So you try to get as many previews as you can because, well, if you don't, what happens is your final render doesn't look the way you want it to and you end up re-rendering, and that's a waste of all sorts of time. We're going to say at this point, I am at that juncture where I'm ready to say, this is the timing I like. I've gone over here under this window that calls render, and I've looked at all my textures. Let's stop it playing, stop, because it will never catch up. And I've looked at it at various scenes here. And even here, it's important to remember, if I put my mouse pointer somewhere, it will try to render that area quicker so I can more fine tune a texture or what have you. Also worth mentioning, if you let this window render, you can save it as a still. If I go under options, I wonder if it'll let me do it. Save image. So you can save still images right out of that just to give yourself some reference and so you realize it's where you like it. But we're going to say, we like all of that, we like our textures, we like our background, all of that's set up and we're happy with it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save. I'm going to do save as, and I'm going to call this Modo Masters Final 1. You'll notice I number these. I might have many Modo Master Finals. Ideally I'd only have one, but anytime I do a change I have to remember it so it goes back, so I don't lose the changes that happen there. Now, let's talk about what the render engine does. And we're going to look at a different window. I'm going to click this thing here that says render window. And it throws this up. This is the actual renderer. We're not seeing anything yet. I'm going to hit render and you can get an idea what's happening here. This is the machine trying to render the final image. Each of those tiles over there represents one processor core. Let me hit here, Control-Alt-Delete. So if I go here, you'll see it's using everything the system has. I'll minimize this. You know what? I might do this so you can just see it happening. I'm going to tuck it in a corner down here just so you can see how it's, eventually going to get it. Darn. You think I'm just moving inside the box? There we go. That's what I want to do. I'll tuck it down here, out of our way, but you can see it's all peaked up there. And you can see that this will take a while. A couple things it'll tell us. It tells us it'll take a while. This is estimating it's going to take 9 minutes. See that 9M right there? It tells us how long it's taken, tells us what frame it's on, and gives us a whole bunch of other information for what's going on. And you'll actually see, even in this little bit we can see, the detail is much better. I'm going to hit abort and hit yes, and it will actually save that image for me, at least as much of it as I have, and I can zoom in on it and look around. And this is what the final render will be pixel by pixel. Now remember this about 3D programs. 3D programs do not make movies. They make frames. That's the only thing they make. So what we're going to have this do is we're going to have this make a bunch of frames for us in one directory, and then next week, maybe during the week, We're going to take those frames, we're going to go into After Effects or a different program, we're going to mash them into a movie, and we're going to upload that movie to YouTube, and then we're going to watch them up there, which is the final result of what we're looking for, right? Okay. Now, I stopped that there, and they let you stop that there so you can do things to fix it. If there are things I don't like about this, there are a lot of settings under render, and I'm going to shrink this window up a little bit. The very top thing on my shader tree is the render. And this is going to dictate what happens when I tell this to produce frames for me. It first tells me what camera I'm using, because I could have multiple cameras. In this case, I only have the one. How many frames am I going to render? 1 to 480. That's what I want to render. There are things I could skip frames if I want to do every other frame, if I want to do test renders. Resolution unit, I'm going to output this at 720p, which is 1280 pixels by 720 pixels. And you can see I changed that there. And bucket width is actually the size of those little buckets. Playing around with this can sometimes give you faster rendering. I'm actually going to turn it to 32 by 32. And just to show you, when I render now, the buckets will appear bigger, especially when I pull this like that. Yeah. See? And it might be faster or slower. It's hard to say. I'm going to abort it again. Yes. Now, I've turned off a few things in this render to make it go faster. One of the things I turned off is under global illumination. Global illumination is a technique that makes things look very good, but is fairly time intensive. I'm going to turn it on, which it is on for all your machines by default, and I'm going to hit render and watch what happens. Render. What it's doing right now is it's doing an approximation of what colors affect other colors in the scene first. Now, the end result of this is it could make your scene look a lot better. We'll let it run through this, and you'll see that this is time consuming. Yes, though this won't be the final image. This is, global illumination is this idea, like if we're looking at like a wall, like the wall behind me there, okay? If we look at that Frankenweenie poster, that Frankenweenie poster affects the color of that Monsters 3D poster. And that Monsters 3D poster affects the color of that Frankenweenie poster. That's reality. In 3D, that's really hard to simulate, because what it means is you have to bounce rays mathematically off every surface to every other surface. That's what global illumination is trying to do right now. And even how, you see how it's filling it in a crude way? It's doing an approximation. Like it just guesses, it actually, it puts, as I remember, and I could be wrong about the mathematics, that's a little bit, it takes each location and it literally puts a virtual globe around it, and then compares that to a virtual globe around another location there to see how they influence each other. And it keeps doing that back and forth. And even here, we might be able to see that maybe that gave me better results. As a matter of fact, I'm going to let a little of this render in, and then we can actually compare the difference with global illumination and without. Well, I'm going to hit abort there. And I'll let it go a little bit further. Oh, I lost my processor thing just so you can see that again. That should just be peaked out. That's what you want to be. And this is actually a big point too, and we'll talk more about this. When you finally set this up to render, you just walk away from it. Don't touch your machine that's rendering, because all you're going to do is slow it down. Okay, I'm going to hit abort. Yes. Now, we have these previous renders, so I can actually see the difference. And I'll tell you what the global illumination did. It's fairly subtle. Look here. This is globally illuminated. This isn't. Isn't. Do you see that? Like I said, it's a minor effect. But, you know, it might be it's a big enough effect. I'm actually going to leave it on because I kind of like the way I'm getting a different texture here. And probably if I looked at the glass, I'm probably getting different results in the glass too. But I'm going to say I like global illumination, so I've decided global illumination I will leave on. There are other settings, but they get a little bit scarier. These are all settings based for the renderer itself, and there's a thing about Modo's renderer. It looks very good, like you've seen the results of it, but it can look really, really good, but with punishing time differentials. Meaning that like it might go from like 5 minutes a frame to an hour a frame, which is okay. Again, as long as you have the machines for, 2 or 3 days, you're fine. And interestingly, these machines, if you leave them rendering tonight, nobody is going to look at them till Monday. You could have 3 full days of just hardcore nonstop rendering, so why not use that? That's one of the reasons why this class is on a Friday. One of the very good reasons why it's on a Friday. I'm going to say I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm going to show you some of these settings here. If I go here, it should show me the number of samples per pixel. This is this idea of the way any render engine works is, we have 1280 by 720 pixels. Now a ray tracer means I go to the first pixel and I literally mathematically, I shoot rays out of it to see what they hit. Is it red? Is it blue? Is it shiny? Is it what have you? Is it reflective? If it's reflective, well, what does that hit? And I keep going and going. This is how many times per pixel I do that. Higher values look better. I'm going to put 64 samples a pixel, which will probably be punishingly long, but we'll do it. There should be some other settings here. Yes. This is a setting, I'm not even certain what this is, environmental sampling. But you'll see that it's telling me fine, coarse, medium. I'm going to go to medium just to pick it. And actually here, do we have the same setting? What are we on by default on refinement settings? We're on medium. We'll leave it on medium. And really to see this, I should render again. So I'm going to hit render again and see if I'm going to get a major difference. Now, this is the thing. Since I have GI on, it's going to have to go through this whole cycle again, and I have to check this again. And this is why, when I'm always talking about those 5 parts of 3D, this is what render wranglers do. So whenever you watch a movie and you're looking at the credits at the end, you see render managers and render wranglers, and you see IT people. This is their job. They have to go in there, and after everybody's modeled it and textured it and animated it and set up all the lighting and cameras, they're the ones that have to figure out what's the most efficient way to get it out and how do you make it look the best. So this is a whole field unto itself. Strangely, in my own world, it's actually one of my favorite parts of the process because you really get to refine things. You get to see like the true, if you do it right, you should be able to make it so that nobody knows it's a 3D effect if that's what you want to have happen. That's how powerful it should be. And that when I used to do effects, what I specialized in were effects that you never knew happened. They were mostly fixes, actually. But when you did them properly, nobody knew a digital thing had touched anything. That's the idea. I'll let a little of this go in so we get a similar area to test. And you'll see I can always go back to these other versions. I'm going to let just a little bit of glass go in. You'll see those glass tiles. When it starts getting to the glass and it's bouncing rays, the rays are bending through the glass for transparency and they're reflecting off of it, so it's taking a lot longer per processor. Right now I've just told to use 6 cores, so you see each core is at 100% of its stuff trying to figure out what that glass looks like. I'm going to let these ones finish and then I'm going to abort and we'll compare it. Two more, good, abort. Yes, I want to abort. Okay, so now I can zoom in here and let's see how this compares to this. And that is the difference between the fine detail and the coarse detail. See that? Now again, it comes down to, do I want to pay a 10-minute penalty for that? I might. I might even want to put on superfine because it would make the noise in here become even less. And actually this, to see where we started, this is where we started. This has no global illumination. This has coarse detail and everything. This is where we are, where it has much finer detail in here and has global illumination, a few other things going on. I'm going to show you one other setting, and then we'll go to the actual rendering part, and you can try it yourselves if you're ready to go. Ray tracing, reflection depth and refraction depth. I have these pieces of shattering lens going on here, and basically what this is saying don't let anything bounce further than 8 times. So if I'm looking out pixel-wise, that will slow it down, but that also means I might be getting black in here from where it just stops. I'm going to increase these, and let's see if they give us choices. No, not really. I'm going to put in, I'm going to just double both of them. And actually, I'm going to go back here and increase my bucket size to 64 by 64 to see if that makes things any faster. And I'm going to hit render again. And it's going to start again. It goes through the GI pass first. And let me pull some of the data out of here because the data might be useful to us. Data. Where's the data window? Where the hell's my data window? I bet I shut it somewhere. I'll reopen it momentarily. Let's let this render in. And let me put this back up. I'm probably way zoomed out, and I should be at 100% zoom, 1:1 actual size. Good. Fortunately, watching something render isn't that interesting. And we're still waiting on the global illumination. We'll put it there. Of course, turning up those other settings will make global illumination take longer too, since it might be taking more bounces into account. And the way this works is the more polygons you have, the more textures you have, the more complex the textures are, the more reflective surfaces, the more transparent surfaces, the more detail you turn on the renderer, all adds to longer times for rendering. I'm very anxious to see if the reflections made a big change in the glass, though. And I will show you a way. I might show it now because this is getting kind of boring. I'm going to close this. Yes, I want to abort the render. I'm going to reopen the render window, which should give me my side thing. Why are you not giving me my side thing? Side thing, side thing, side thing. Oh, you know what? Is it down here? Nope. I'm trying to find my side data here. I'm tempted to, I'm going to reset the layout because I probably turned something out. Restore, normal tabbed, okay. Go to render, good. Render window. Oh, and it's still not giving me that data tab. Is it here? There it is. That's what I was looking for. I'm looking for this because I can also do something where I take just an area of the image. This is called the render region. We're going to say edit it, and I'm going to put it up to the top where I know there's a lot of glass, and then I'm going to hit render, and it should just figure out that area. This will make it a lot faster for me to see one detail. Because what I really want to check is how the glass changed when I turn the reflections on. I bet I can go to 100% here too. Yes, 100%. Where in the hell's the region though? I shouldn't jump ahead of myself here. I know it's trying to do it because it still says rendering up there. And if I look at my processors, they're all doing their thing. Again, this is supposed to be faster, but I'm almost tempted to think I broke it. I'm going to hit abort. Yes, and I'm going to save because I'm scared I might have broken it. I want to save because I don't want to lose all the changes I've already made. This is where we're going to make a Modo Master Anim Final 2. That way I'll know the one I need to render is the one with the last number on it. And let's try this again. We're on use render region. We'll hit render. Good. And we'll just not touch it. Like I said, when you touch a machine when it's rendering, all you're really going to do is make things worse. I hope this does it. Hey, Jamie. It's funny, and maybe I'm kidding myself, but I think even in the GI, I'm seeing more detail in the glass by turning up those settings. And here go the processor cores. We made them bigger, 64 by 64. They're all doing their thing. So another thing we can do, and we will talk about this after this goes a little bit, but probably not in this video. I can also use other machines to help me render. That even in this room, I can actually tell this machine to look at other machines and use their processors so that I see more cores pop up here. So if I get something that might take 5 hours a frame, which isn't unusual, I could access 5 more machines and turn it into 1 hour a frame, if everything works right. Oh, it got one tile done. Look, right there. Not even a full tile, but see, I suspect it's going to look better. It's got to be close on those other ones. I may find I put that value up too high, 16 by 16, for reflection and refraction. I have 230 shards of glass, and there's a lot of stuff bouncing around amongst them, clearly. Come on. My guess is that these 3 are going to finish at the same time. Interestingly, it's going to be a really long time. Right now it's estimating that it's going to take 49 minutes to do this. And we're not going to sit here for that, obviously. But I'd like it to get at least one of the big tiles done, because I don't think we can really compare it until we get a big tile done. And it means maybe I should use a smaller area of a smaller render region under here, but I would have to come back and decide that then. The time is going up. It's actually up to 1 hour, 2 minutes now in its estimation. Can I switch over here? Statistics, yes. This is showing me what's passed so far, 3 minutes, 19 seconds. And it gives me some other detail. These are the number of rays that are going on, and actually this is sort of interesting, are reflection rays. Of course, the refraction rays are up to 16 million, which is a very high number. I may have to, you know what, I'm going to abort. Okay, dare I give it a couple more seconds? See, I just don't like that these numbers are climbing so high. I'm also wondering about my RAM usage. This will show me how my RAM... No, my RAM's rock solid at 5.86 gigs. We have 16 gigs. That's odd. I would have thought that the RAM usage would have gone up with the number of rays it's bouncing around. It's got that whole row done. That's something. Come on, you can do these two little tiles. That's all I really want. Oh my God, we got one. Wait, Tyler. One more tile. And actually, even here, I can tell it looks better. Well, let me zoom in. Not really yet. We're so close. Come on, give me this one. One lousy tile over here. One more lousy tile. You know what? We'll call it abort. Abort. Yes. Now, the reason I aborted, and you'll see my process usage just drop like a rock. Okay, take a look at this now. I'm going to zoom in to 100%. That's 100% of the glass as compared to this glass, which is, oh, you know what? I have to go back here to find my other glass. This is my glass with 8 and 8 bounces. This is my glass with 16 and 16 bounces. That's way better glass, right? I mean, there's no real comparison there, right? Am I right about that or am I not right about that? I like that glass better. Render times might be sick, but so what? Okay, I'm going to save it and say, this is it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to make this actually happen. This is what you do then. Actually, I should do one other thing first. One other very important thing. Frame, Modo Masters, good. Render, pixels, where we're going. I have to remember where I'm putting these frames, because the whole thing is when I output them, I'm going to tell them to output a certain frame type. Scene is there, right. Oh, here we go. Final color output. This is where they're going to go. Browse. Now I want to find a directory that's big enough to hold them. It's defaulting to Targa. I'm going to pick a different type. I'm going to pick a half float OpenEXR, which is a type of image format that maintains a lot of color information. And I'm going to pick a place to put them. Art 293, this is our folder. I'm going to pick, I'm certain I have a folder in here, Francis. There we go, Francis Frasness. Now we'll try Fra. And I'm going to make myself a new folder, which I'm going to call Modo Masters. I'm going to pick it. And I'm going to give these a name. We're going to call these Final. I'm going to hit Save. And hopefully it's going to be happy. It's going to take a sec to check it. Good. Now, it has that path, right? Now I'm going to save my scene. Final, Save As. And I really should probably save it in the same place, which I think I will do. But I'm going to call this Modo Masters Final 3. And now I'm going to go in that same directory and save it there too, so that I have backups. You want backups here. I finally have all my settings in place. Save As. Let's go to our drive. Modo Masters. I'll save it loose right here. Save. Okay, now I hit render. Oop, actually I don't. Abort, yes. This is going to try to render there. I go to my render here. I hit render. And this should now be starting on frame 1, rendering frame 0, and I walk away. I leave it a day, 2 days, 3 days, who knows. What I can do, since I put them in the Z drive, is I can go to another machine and check on them as they're going, which I might want to do. But this machine, I want to just leave. Oh, and actually I can see I've already made a mistake. I left my render region on. So I have to abort. Yes. Turn off use render region. I'm going to have to resave now. File, Save As. We'll call this 4. Now I'll launch the render again. And this should be the full frame. And we might put statistics on. And I will let this go. I'm going to end our video here. Okay. We have to add a little bit to rendering, the most important part of rendering, which is actually getting the render going. I'm going to go over all the fine details, everything we need to do to make sure it's ready, and then launch it so that you'll have everything you need to make renders come out of Modo. First off, we're going to check, starting with the actual scene file itself. We have a frame rate that we like. The scene range is correct. I'm going to go to the camera, and I'm going to check the scene settings. 24 frames per second, 0 to 480, that's correct. Now I'm going to go to the render in the shading tree. 1 to 480, it's rendering the camera I want. The resolution is right, 1280 by 720. All of this stuff has been set up when I was testing the render earlier. And now here comes the most important part to actually getting a render going. You go under the render menu, go to render animation, check that this is all correct. 1 to 480, image sequence, that's all correct. Use the file names specified in the render outputs, which I could check back over there, but are correct, and hit yes. Now this will come up and we'll probably lose sync because it will start taking a lot of my processor time. This is the render actually launching. We're going to check some of these details to make sure they're correct. And if they are, we're done. We walk away from it. Let it go until it's finished.